What a bullet! Scott Arfield! He's been threatening that recently, and all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end.
Hello, everybody, and welcome along to the latest episode here on Turfcast Podcast with me, Joe Redmond, on what is a very special episode. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, of course, listening on the podcast. And yeah, this is a big one for me. I'm really excited to bring this one to you. It is, of course, the interview with Andy Cooke. I've been working on this for a while. It came up for the Arsenal game. I managed to get talking to him around that time, asking him if he'd want to come on the podcast and stuff like that. And it turned out he was back up in Burnley again just a couple of weeks later. He played in a charity match for Colne, a Vintage Clarets charity match. He talks about it more in the interview, so I won't go into too much detail. There is a link in the description where you can donate to the cause. I think they need a new 3G pitch at Colne, where Paul Weller, one of his friends, obviously, from his time at Burnley, is the manager. But big one, this. I've split it into two parts, so this is part one. It's around an hour and a half long overall, a little bit more than that actually, around an hour 40. So I'll split it into two parts. This one's about 55 minutes and the other one's obviously a little bit less. But yeah, part one, it's brilliant. Andy's really, really down to earth. He's a really good lad. He talks about everything, his entire career, his friendships on and off the pitch, the managers he's worked under over the course of the two shows. Now, this one, which is obviously the first one, part one, he talks to me about signing for Burnley. He was actually doing a deal to sign for Crewe when he signed to Burnley. He goes into more detail, obviously, why he wanted to come to Burnley. Chris Waddle, Glenn Roeder coming in and working underneath them as managers. Stan coming in. Half-time whiskies, that's a good story. Friendships with Paul Weller, strike partnerships with Andy Payton is all in part one. And then in part two, we talked about leaving Burnley and why he left Burnley and the choice that he made, or why he made that choice to leave Burnley. And then in part two, it goes on to talk further about his career as well. But we'll get into that at the start of part two. But you're not here for me, you're here for Andy, so let's get into it. Just like that, here he is. He gets the ball, he scores a goal. It's Andy Cooke. How you doing, mate?
I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. I don't know how cringe it was me saying that then, but I was saying to myself last night, I have to mention that song that I was saying to you when you first got here. At primary school, I don't want to make you feel old now, but when I was at primary school in like year 4 or 5, I just remember chanting that chant for years, for a couple of years, just doing that.
I think I've not heard it for ages, to be fair. And so when you come back here, it's like there was little echoes of it, because I haven't been here for a while, but came back to do the Arsenal game, a couple of interviews and so on that day, and you sort of see a little couple of echoes, and you're thinking, how can people still remember that? You know, from all them years ago. But I think I think it's playing, or when you're on that pitch and you get to score and that echoes around the ground, it's like, you know, it's just you're quite unaware of the crowd a lot of the time, but when you hear things like that, it's obviously it's what football's all about as a player, really.
It's great memories going back then. Well, first of all, thank you for coming on. Obviously, really appreciate you agreeing to do this.
A pleasure. You know, I've not really spoken about the old days really that much, so it's always good to have a chat about.
You've been up for a while, haven't you? You've been busy. You played a match yesterday with Vintage Clarets.
Played a game for Vintage Clarets yesterday. Typical that I'm not football fit anymore, so you sort of tip up and try and get through. The pitch was waterlogged completely, and it was a
Where
mess.
At
Colne FC.
Right, yeah.
So I've started to get into a bit of running and hurt my calf about a week ago. So I was thinking, it's only a matter of time. So I thought it was going to last about 5 minutes. I think I lasted about 25-30 minutes and just calf completely went. So sad thing was, I think the last time we had, I seen a lot of the lads was leading up to, obviously with what happened with Lenny John Rose, but we had a charity game, and we I think that was the last time I came up. But
is that the one at Bamber Bridge?
That was the one at Bamber
I went to
Bridge.
that one, yeah.
So that was great because I think there was only a couple missing. I think Wrighty didn't. I think Wrighty wasn't there, but everyone else was sort of there, and that was great to see all the lads again. And then obviously Lenny's funeral, when you sort of see all the lads again and sort of thing. So yeah quite sad, but very very sort of sad times at all, with what happened with Len and whatever.
Yeah.
But you do see everyone. The unfortunate thing.
Played a game yesterday, like we said, for Vintage Clarets. A bit of fundraising though, weren't it? Who are you fundraising for?
So I think a lot of it's to do with Colne at the moment. I think ideally in a perfect world they would love to get 3G, but I think again there's a lot of clubs around the area, obviously, and they all have their financial issues. So I think it was just trying to raise a bit of money, get some money into the club, and so on. So it was quite a good turnout. It was, I think, obviously myself, Andy Payton back from the day, and Jamie Hoyland. I think Branchy came up for a bit. Graham Branch. There was Mickey Mellon came up for a little bit. They didn't play, but it's just it's just Wells obviously played, and just just seeing it was quite a good turnout. Jez Harrison obviously. And obviously Dean. I was with Dean at Bradford, Dean Windass and stuff. So it's good. It's good that all these lads sort of come together for
and obviously well as manager at Cole now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's get into your time at Burnley then. Signed in '95.
Yeah. So I was saying when I came up the other week, I think I originally signed. I think it was earlier, so we signed maybe back at sort of '94, but that's how long that was going on. But because of when I was playing at Newtown in the League of Wales, and I was actually doing a deal to sign for Crewe at the time. So I was actually training with Robbie Savage and Neil Lennon at so the ex sort of Celtic. Yeah. And then who else was there? I think Rob Jones. There was loads of players. Delhi had They had a real good side there. Danny Murphy. So I was about to do a deal with the club had already signed a deal. I was training with Crewe. I think a deal had been done, and it just come out of the blue. So I signed. I think I played on the Saturday, and I think there wasn't a game at Burnley on the Saturday, but I remember Jimmy Mullen come down with might have been Brian Miller at the time or whatever. Anyway. And they rung that night and said, we want to sign him. So I sort of went up on the Monday. But they did a deal that they signed me. And I think they were struggling, Burnley, at the time. I think they might have even got relegated that year.
94, 95, or 93, 94 we got relegated.
They got relegated. And because they were in the Championship and they went down. Yeah. So they'd done a deal, but I didn't start until the following season. Because we could qualify for Europe at Newtown. So that's how that happened.
That's obviously how TNS are always in Europe.
That's right, yeah. So we sort of we did an agreement to stay at Newtown until the following season. So that's and that's how it came about, really. And then obviously I think Burnley paid a little bit more money, and we sort of went behind Crewe's back, really. So at the time, I think there was a guy called Jake King, who's ex sort of Wrexham, Shrewsbury sort of legend, and we drove up here and sort of did a deal on the day at Burnley.
Yeah. How did it come about then? Because obviously, because I remember it being, I was about 7, but I remember it being quite a surprise at the time, and my dad being quite shocked about us signing somebody that nobody had heard of from the League of Wales, a non-league, and spending money. I think it was about 40k, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was about. I think they signed. I think it might have been about 50k because I think they'd done a deal with Crewe for about 30-40, and I think Burnley just said, look, we'll pay, this 50k or whatever, and again, it was, I think, clubs were sort of looking at just out of the box a little bit, looking at non-league players and so on. And to be fair, there was some good lads in that league at that time. There was some good players in non-league, and I think for Burnley to sign, and there was a lot of question marks about it. And I remember going. I think I went literally as I signed. I've still got a paper cutting at home, bizarrely, and it sort of says. Clarets beat off competition to sign the new Steve Ball or something like. And I'm like,
Is that from Burnley Express?
Burnley Express, yeah, something like that. So I could sort of thinking, hold on a minute, there's quite a bit of pressure sort of mounting. I remember my first day here, I did a day's training, and they sent me out to go down to Accrington to a pub down there. I can't remember it, but it was like a Aki Clarets. Yeah. And I went to do a talk down there, thinking, I'd just be one man and his dog in there. I couldn't even get in the pub because it was that busy. And I was thinking, what are all these doing here? Then it was that rammed in there. And basically, I'd never really done an interview before or anything, and I had to stand at the front, and they were just chucking. The pub was, you just couldn't stand, and it was just standing room only. It was that busy, and I had to just do just firing questions at me like everyone was.
Like a fans forum.
Just a fans forum thing. That was it, and it was sort of just. I did one there, and then I did another, that week or thing, and it was the same everywhere. And I was thinking, this is, I thought it was a big club, but
Yeah, you say you never done like that before. Is that because you come from non-league?
Just come from non-league, never done anything. Obviously, like people shoving microphones in your hand, and so you're thinking, actually, rabbit.
No media training then, were there?
No, nothing. Just there, crack on. That's it. Yeah. So then you start to think, this is a big deal here. There's a lot of passion. There's a lot. I knew it was a big club, but just when you get amongst. From that night, actually, I got a real great relationship with, especially Aki side. Yeah. And a lot of people that lived in Aki and got friendly with a lot of people there. And back in the day, Accrington was actually quite a good night as well, to be fair.
Yeah.
Sunday night there. If there was no game on a Tuesday, we'd be out down there.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, just got a great relationship with the sort of the gang and the sort of the following from there. And, that's sort of how it came about. And I said the pressure, I could feel it quite quickly
That's my next point then. Like, obviously, it's a big jump from non-league to, at the time, you said Championship, but then in what is now the Championship to what is now League One.
Yeah.
Did you feel a lot of pressure then on yourself to hit the ground running?
I think when you're young, I think you do, but...
I mean, you were 21, weren't you, at the
time?
time?
I think, yeah. So, you work so hard to get to that point of... It's mad, really, because I was playing in the conference at like 16, 17 for Telford. No one picked me up. And you're thinking, that would never happen in today's. So you had to work so hard. Then Telford released me, which is bizarre, because I was, why would you release someone that's sort of 19? Getting in the first team, and then I'm thinking manager was Jerry Daly, if you can remember Jerry Daly, ex-Man United, sort of, and Derby. It just let me go. You're thinking, anyway, had to take a step down, but still believed in myself that I could go and do it. So when that move comes to be a professional, that's all I ever worked for. I just believe in myself, just keep going and going and going and going. And then when it's there, you've got the opportunity, and then it's like you've got to go again, but bigger, harder, better. And the step was massive. So you think from non-league, again, it's just the quality, the mindset, the understanding of what you have to do on a pitch, and I had to really get into that very, very quickly.
Yeah.
I think I made my debut away. I come on a sub away at Bristol Rovers. They played at like the old Bath Stadium back then. I think.
Did they?
Because
Wouldn't have at Memorial Ground then?
No. So my first game, I came on with about 20 minutes. I don't think I really touched the ball, and then that was I don't think what happened on the Saturday. I can't remember what happened on the Saturday, but anyway, the following Tuesday, he just went, "You're starting." Yeah. I was thinking, shit, this is getting real now. This is and I scored after about. I think it must have been about 15 minutes. I scored a header, and just settled. You can't wish for a dream start. And I remember put the cross in. Can't remember. Just trying to think now. But anyway, the ball. Curtin Hogan crossed it. Just got across and glanced it into the far corner. But it's that'll just live with me forever. It just gets you off.
That's your first professional goal.
First professional goal. Yeah, set like my first proper start. So I got off to a bit of a flyer, and then just sort of build on from there. Really.
Just rewinding a little bit, obviously you said you was in there with Crewe and looking like you'd signed with Crewe, but then changed your mind. Your words went behind their back a little bit. What made you sign for Burnley rather than Crewe? Because Crewe have always had quite a good youth development, haven't they?
No, sometimes I always think it's like a sliding door moment. Now you think at Burnley when it was, I think I got shot by the size of the club. I just wanted to be a club that, no disrespect to Crewe, they had unbelievable players at the time. And all them players went on to... So their development seemed the conveyor belt of producing players. So that was in the back of my mind. But I just thought, when Burnley are there, how can you say no to like a sleeping giant like Burnley at the time? And it was just such a pull. And the money was sort of there in front of me. And, again, back in the day, I think I probably signed about... I think my first contract was about, 500 quid a week, and they gave me about, 10 grand signing on fee, something like that. And it was just,
Also, that's in 94, 95.
Yeah. And you think, that's there in there, just sign it. And, they were chucking kit at me and all this, and you're thinking, just walk around the stadium and just thought, this is the place. And I think Dario, at the time, Grady at Crewe, I think he showed his arse a bit because the deal was pretty much done, so I think he really did show his arse at that. And a couple of years, I remember going past, and you always think sometimes, because Danny went on to play, everyone was going on to play, Dele went on to bigger things. They all just seemed to go on. I thought, have I made a bit of a... You question yourself, would it have gone differently? But, I think you do question that, but when you finish and your career's done, you look back and you think, I would never change it. It was just, I was here for a long, long time, and I loved every minute of it.
How would you look back on your time at Burnley? Are you proud of it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think there's times where you're not in the side, or you get knocks, you get injuries, you get suspensions, and there was a time. I think there was the only time I really wanted to push myself off, because you hate being left out the side. I think. I'm trying to think who was manager at the time. They bought Jerry Craney in for a little bit,
Oh, from City, I remember him, yeah.
And he just seemed to, and I thought, look, he just scored a goal here and there, and I was thinking, there's no way, but when he would start him in front of me, and I think there was a time where you're desperate to play every single game. You just want to play. And Jerry was scoring the odd goal, but I thought, no disrespect, but he was overweight. He was, I just thought, and when it came on, it was like I was even more hungry to do well. And always used to nick a goal or something, so it just kept me fresh in the mind. I would never go away, so I always wanted to be a player that gave everything you possibly could at every game. That's it, because you only get one chance at it. And I wasn't the talent. I'm the first to say I wasn't the most talented player in the world. But what sometimes makes up for, some of the best players, Beckham probably didn't have to take, he never had to take on players to be the best. He just used to get half a yard and do what he did. And that was the same, really. I sort of had the same mentality of, all right, I can't take everyone on. But I had pace, I had aggression, I had just hungry to win football and be a pain in the bloody arse all the time. So that I just made a living out of that. And I think when I left Burnley, I think if you walk off the pitch and you know that you've given it everything, and the crowd will appreciate that. Yeah. You've done everything you can. It doesn't always work out, and you can't. No one wants to walk out and have a shit game. But I think when you go out there and you cross that white line, if you don't give it everything, then
leave it all on the pitch.
You leave it on the pitch, and if you get beat or you have a shit game, that's it. You can't do anything about that. But you can at least try and do something. And I think the mentality of a lot of lads, I think in a specific time when Stan had, we played under loads of managers within the club, but I think there was a time where I think Stan got everyone pulling in the same direction. It's the only time I've ever been in a side where, and I've had promotions. I had promotion with Stoke and so on, and other team, but Stan just sort of moulded something with a group of lads that, if you I'll look after you, look after me. If you don't put it in, then fuck off, basically, because you're not good enough to play. And I think just that was the mentality I always had at the club. So I think when going back to the I was proud of my time here, and I think now I love coming back here. I had the conversation yesterday. I always thought I could see myself moving back here because I just loved it back here. Yeah. And I think when I do come back here, as I said, I could walk into a pub and it's been 24, 25 years and people just come up and speak to us as if like you're still like, they remember you, and I'm like, how can you still remember me? It's all them years ago. And it's just, so that's from what I left by leaving here. I didn't really want to leave, but there's a time when you recognise that. And I think, but coming back, I've so many fond memories of up here. And I love coming back here because it's just a great place to be.
Just again, going back to the start of your Burnley career, obviously you struggled to break into the team originally. I know you've referenced there your first professional goal and stuff like that, but then obviously Jimmy Mullen signed you, then he was sacked, Adrian Heath come in, and then you were struggling to break into the team at that point. Did you have any regrets about choosing Burnley over Crewe at that point?
Well, I think that that would have crept in my head, and you said you're not going to start every game for whatever reason. I mean, I was really raw, right? I'm first to say I was raw. So, you're not going to start every game unless you're scoring or whatever. I think, it's probably more of it at that time. If you're not starting, you're going to come on, you're trying to make a bit of an impact or whatever. So, it was hard to actually make that transition, but trying to get that, cement yourself in the side. So it takes a bit of time. But I think you just keep, as I said, you just keep going and going and going. And I think with my mentality, it's like, just, if I'm not in, I'll be a nuisance in order that you've got to pick me. So whether in reserve, and back in the day, the reserve games were on
Wednesdays.
Yeah, on a Wednesday on the ground. So you'd always go to
I used to go to them.
Wherever, it's not like today where I think, the game's changed massively for, even though I was a young lad then, or young lads, in a reserve side, you would play on the grounds, you would play against first team players, Prem players, whatever, and that it was a massive learning curve. So I think when you're scoring goals at reserve level, that's all you can do is just score goals. So, and eventually they're just going to have to pick you. So that's sort of, it's just part and parcel of football. You have to get used to it very quickly. You're not going to be the face that fits every week. But if you're a nuisance in training and in the games, that's all you can do, so that you have to be picked.
I read an interview that you did all the way back in 2016, actually, where you said your career highlight was joining Burnley. How come it was your career highlight? Is it because you went from non-league to pro, and that was the first point where he was like,
Yeah,
I've actually made it now?
Definitely. I said before, I think just you work so hard to get that, and I think it was a career highlight because you don't know, you're going into an animal that you're unaware of, and when you're here at a club and the passion and from the fans and everything, you can feel that. I mean, and it is definitely a highlight because not only experiences I had here, because over like sort of 5+ years, not only off the pitch but mainly on the pitch, but it all builds into one memory from where you live, from just people you meet to the experiences on the field and the players you play with and the players you play against and all that. So it was definitely a massive, it was a huge highlight for just signing here because you're right, it's my first professional club, but when I moved from here, it's like sometimes you try and relive that moment.
Yeah.
The Stoke thing was a bit of a pull for me, but I can talk about that. But when I left here, I could never replace the moment, the time, if that sort of makes sense. So as much as you go to another club and it's a new changing room, it's new lads, it's new friends, but it still wasn't Burnley, if that makes sense. So, and then obviously I've moved on to other clubs and sort of gone out my way to play for other teams and whatever. But it was, to be at a club for any stage of any career, to be for at one club for 5 years in any eras, it's a long time really. So that's being consistently doing well and being comfortable as well in your surroundings and everything. So that obviously has it's definitely a highlight. But being comfortable within your you say it's all right being comfortable in the workplace, but you have to be comfortable away from the workplace as well. So all that sort of nurtures together every year.
Your best season for Burnley in terms of goals were 97-98, obviously culminating in the Plymouth Argyle game at home, where we stayed up on the final day, sending them down, actually. What are your memories of that season? Because obviously Burnley fans don't look back on that season with fond memories because of how poor we were, but obviously staying up on the final day. But I think personally for you, it's obviously a career highlight that season.
Well, I mean, it's the only time I ever scored. I wasn't prolific. I mean, I think if you look at stats, it's probably about 1 in 3. I mean, it's not prolific, but as a centre forward, you sort of expect more. That season, I think it's the only time I've ever scored 20 goals in a season, albeit they weren't all league goals. I think it was about 16 league goals. The rest were in cup or whatever. That season. I mean, we talk about that season, we joke about it. I mean, we joke about it yesterday. I mean, everyone's got different mixed feelings. I mean, obviously, that season, I remember starting off, I think we went to Ireland on a pre-season tour, and we played a few games around Ireland and whatever, and it was I remember sitting around the dinner table, whatever, and there was like just players walking in, new players. So I think there was like Steve Blatherwick, I think Mark Ford. And then, you're thinking, well, they're just bringing in players. And I think Chris and Glenn at the time were just expecting we are who we are, and this is going to be
That's
a piece.
Chris Waddle gone.
This is we are who we are. I think we're going to be because of what we've done in the game. We'll just tip up here, and we'll be flying. And they started bringing in players. It's like the team from the year before. I mean, there were some good lads there, but they just sort of bought all these players. I think it would be Michael Williams as another one. No disrespect to him, but he had he struggled when he was here. Fordy didn't have a great time. Steve Blatherwick didn't have a great time. I'm trying to think a few more. I think Neil Moore possibly. They just kept bringing in these players, and I was thinking, they obviously know these players or whatever. But I just as a team, we just weren't. It just wasn't happening. I mean, I said we said play on a Saturday. Be like see you Monday. Train Monday. Be like literally hardly anything. See you like bloody what day was it? So it was train Monday. Then be like see you Wednesday. Train Wednesday, and they'd be like see you like we'd see you Friday. So we were like missing like most of the week, and then it would be like on the Saturday play, and it'd be like right lads, if we've got a point or whatever, it'd be like even we've got see you Tuesday lads. See you Tuesday, but like what so it's the culture just seemed to just not be there. We weren't training as much as we should have been, and there was a lot of I don't know. They'd probably be the same to say that we made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
Huge mistakes coming in. And I remember we joke about it all the time. Like Glenn Road would come in, like this would be a classic day. So we'd come in, and he'd look at these watts like this, and he'd go, right, let's go. And he'd run, right? He'd just keep running. Stay with me. And we'd have to just keep running and running and running and running and running, like for like 45 minutes. And the lads are like, you know, some lads like Swanee and Glenn are like, give him a nudge, will you? What's going? Yeah, give him it. Like this is taking the piss constantly. We're just running.
Yeah.
And then we'd do like a little bit of football, see you, you know, and then that was it. It was just, I don't know. It was just hard work at times. You know what I mean? It was just the mentality. I mean, again, you know, I had the rumours are, and I was trying to think of this the other day. I used to hear that they used to be in, is it Greyhound maybe, till whatever clock, like Sid Cowans and whatever. And I mean, Gordon Cowans was, you know, absolute legend and a great lad and whatever. But, you know, he was getting in the team. I mean, what was he then? 37? He was actually playing. Woodsy came in. What's he? 30? He was about 37, whatever. Yeah. Sid was playing. I mean, the whole team was just at times really misjointed at times, but you know we found a way that year. There was a lot of lads that were left out of that side. You know, I think even Glenn was left out. How could Glenn not get in the side? Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just mad, really.
I always remember Chris Waddle and Glenn coming in, and I was so excited to have a guy like him coming in as manager at that point. But obviously it didn't work out. But what were the lads thinking when he was announced as manager? Were you all as excited as us?
Well, I don't know what to expect. I mean, yeah, Chris Waddle, you are actually a bit, you know, it's a bit, you know, you start, you know, it's like you are starstruck of what this is. Wow, this is Chris Waddle. I mean, I think we used to do some coaching or something. So I always remember this. We were on the training ground one time, and he used to say to me, he'd be like, he used it as an example. So he'd be like, Cookie, when you're in here, just pull off the shoulder. And he goes, I play Jean-Pierre Papin, right? So he was like trying to make out or use Jean-Pierre Papin as like, this is what you do this, and then pull off and then go. So he didn't do enough of that for me, because that's all I want. You know, that's what we all wanted as players, is give us some scenarios or give us some shape of play of, we play in here, we play back, or I want you making that run, I want you like making that third run. I want overlaps. There wasn't really any of that. Everything was just off the cuff every week because we weren't training.
Is that why
you
think it didn't work out for him, because he weren't tactically
Possibly. It just the whole thing. It'd be like on the Wednesday, if we train Monday, it'd be like, train Tuesday, it'd be like, see you Thursday, Friday, or whatever. And then the next thing we'd get a call, and like Frank Teasdale would be like, right, get all the lads. Well, it was going to have a massive session down at the chairman's house. Mm-hmm. So we'd all the lads would be like, just go on the piss. So we'd now all the lads would go down to the chairman's. He had like snooker table, pool table, bar. We'd just flipping be on there on a sesh like every Wednesday down there. Yeah. It's just mad. Yeah. Absolutely mental.
No wonder it didn't work out then.
Yeah.
Different culture back then though, weren't it? Obviously.
It was. I'm not saying we're at all, but you could get away with it. Social media was literally non-existent then. I mean, sometimes you think if we were in modern day back then, we would be in some serious trouble. Yeah, we used to have some nights out. We used to come back or whatever. There used to be some serious bloody nights out. Again, Stan used to say, Gaffer used to go, I don't want any of you fuckers going down that Wallpaper Joe's, he used to call it, like, whatever. But we used to go down there. And said sometimes, like, we would just get into the queue, or say my mates were down and stuff like this, we'd be in the queue, and like, the next thing the lads come around, no, come on lads, just and pile all my mates in and everything, we'd all be in there. Yeah. And the lads were like bloody, like, kids in a sweet shop. You imagine just coming up Burnley, it's like a weekend, they literally you won't see them again all night, they're like just running off, just everywhere. Just loved it. But it was like that sort of mentality, sort of, you were allowed to do it, so you're going to get away with it. So, that culture was probably quite present at that time, which the league didn't lie, and I think we just sort of, when we had to really turn it on, I think they suddenly realised, shit, we're in the shit here. The training was sort of on, everyone was at it, and then results started. I think we beat Fulham in a massive game at home.
Yeah, they were top, I think, weren't they? At the time?
We beat them. We beat them 2-1. I scored. Payton scored, got the winner. I think that was a change of that, because if we hadn't won that, I think we already.
Is that when Kevin Keegan was manager at that point, wasn't it? Or was that?
I think, but they were flying, weren't
they?
Yeah,
I remember him being top and we were bottom.
Yeah,
and we won. I do remember that.
That was I always thought that was a changer. And then the Oldham game, we had to win. I think we were 3-1 up, and the weather was horrific. I remember playing against what was his name? Oldham centre back, Sean. I can't remember his name. I tell you what, he gave me and him like were proper because they were big unit.
Yeah.
Ronnie Gibson, all them elbows flying. He caught me. He caught me about there, but I remember sort of just going down just a little bit. I mean, but I would never do it like today. You see it. I mean,
I know it's mad, innit?
it's just players rolling down. I mean, back in the day, you just hurt. But I just sort of remember going down. But half looking. I mean, he got sent off in the end. I think he got sent off, and we always used to have a bit of banter about it in the end. But I mean, they came back. They were a man down. They came back and drew 3-3 there. I mean, I never forget this. The fans that day, and this again is so typical Burnley, there was that many fans in there because it was the second to last game of the season.
Yeah.
They filled the away end at Oldham, which is a big old end. There was that many, they were having to spill over into the other side. I mean, it's happened quite a few times that's happened.
Yeah.
Walsall, I remember being away there. Wigan, we had a big, massive game against Wigan once, and they just come in there thousands, and they just don't know what to do. So because of other grounds have got bits in, they just piled over. But the Oldham game, we drew 3-3, and it just put the pressure onto that with that
final game.
That final game. And again, we just, I think we talk about Woodsy being old, but I think Woodsy kept us in it. I obviously got the goals that day, but we just had enough that day. I think the relief on everyone was just massive because they're like game. It's again, that's a game. That's a whole changing. That's a changing.
Sliding doors moment, like you said earlier.
In Burnley's history, because if they go down there, what happens?
I don't think we are where we are now if we lose that game.
So and then it just. Chris never managed since then, did he?
No, but I just don't. Obviously, he probably realised it weren't for him.
Yeah.
I would imagine after that. Speaking of managers, you referenced Stan there. I read an interview again, did some research, obviously, where you said he was the best manager you ever played under.
I think so. I would say when he came in initially, he just knew what to do. I mean, I'm not saying tactically, or we worked on stuff, so we knew what to do. So you got me and Pates, basically, could run, back in the day, we could sort of run like, I could just run like the wind. So we just played to our strengths. And what he did in his period of time, took him a little bit of time, but he built a squad. I mean, again, he ripped that team up from the day before. I was at the time, I was either moving to Bristol City. I'd actually thought of doing I think I'd done 20 goals away. I think there was a deal trying to be done to Bristol City.
Yeah, because we're obviously lucky to keep hold of you that year of scoring 20 goals. But then Stan came in the year after, right?
Yeah, so whenever, but anyway, the deal was done. I remember meeting someone down in Colne, there's a pub, and I sat in there, met the agent. The deal was done, I don't know, about $750 or something. So I went. I thought I was going, but I think Stan stopped it or whatever. He put a stop to that. I think something like anyway. So, but what he did, he just took the nucleus of that team and just sort of added to it with. I mean, I think he brought Steve Davis back, who was just just a man mountain of a player from Luton. He brought Mitchell Thomas in, like Gordon Armstrong, Paul Cooke, Lenny. Like lads he sort of knew of, like Lenny was, said just, he was just one of them players that, again, just summed us up. We weren't probably all the greatest, but and Mickey Mellon, we just had a team that just knew how to win games. And I think that year, Paul Crichton is another one. Yeah. I think we kept about 19 clean sheets that year. I didn't score particularly well, I know Pates did, but I played near enough every game. If I was fit, I was playing every game.
Yeah.
And that year, he just got this is how much he respected us. So say if we went on an away game, we'd travel down, and we'd get into the hotel. Gaffer would be right, everyone down. So we'd go for a little walk, and he'd take us to a pub. And we go to a pub, and he'd go, right, 2 pints, 2 glasses of red, that's it, right? So we'd all go out, we'd all be sat in the bar, like in our tracksuits, lads having a couple of pints or red wines or whatever. And then we go for pre-match, and then we'd have sort of a meeting or whatever, and he goes, right, tomorrow, we're at it. And we were just at it every game. I remember, we did it so many times where we'd just be, who takes the squad out for a couple of drinks and a walk on a day before a game, but it had, it just had that effect of togetherness. This is who we are, right, now, on a Saturday, roll your sleeves up and just go and do it on a Saturday, and that's what we did.
Yeah.
And, the righty thing when he said the end of that year. I mean that it just again he had a bit of clout where he used to just he could do that. That was a big turning point because again we have got over the line. He looked at it and thought we're nearly there, but what do we need to do? Because I think Man City were in that league then, weren't they?
Yeah.
Gillingham were flying. There was a few teams that were flying, and he just thought I need something just to just get us over the line. Remember Sky and Talk Sport rung me on the night and go, "Hi Andy, can we do an interview?" And I was like, "Yeah, what?" He goes, "Like you just signed obviously Ian Wright," and I was like, "What?" So I had to ring the gaffer and say, "Gaffer, is this all right?" He went, "Yeah, who's told you?" I said, "Oh, I've just had Sky ring me." He went, "Yeah, it's sound. He goes, "Right, don't forget you'll be starting with him on," because Pates was suspended. And I was thinking, what the fuck is going on? It's just met. So he what he did, he just sort of give everyone a lift. He give the support a lift. He give everyone a lift. But it's the most surreal moment because I sat next to him in training, and then on a match day, and you're thinking, this is like this, it's a surreal moment, really. Do you know what I mean? You're partnering. There's not many people that can say that. You're partnering Ian Wright up front. I mean, it's just.
What were we like behind the scenes then, right?
Yeah, just absolutely sound.
Yeah,
sound. We. I think it's getting like little claim to fame. We talked about this. We went to. I think it might have been a petrol crisis or something. We had Palace on the Saturday and we had Fulham on the Tuesday, and the gaffer went, right, we're staying down all weekend. So we went down on the Friday. We used to stay at, I think it was called the Swallow in just down the road from Harrods or whatever. So I think we went to Palace. I'm not sure if we got beat on the Saturday. It was red hot. It was. We trained on the Sunday, and the gaffer went. So typically, he goes, right, behave yourselves. You can go out for a few hours. So it was me, Mickey Mellon and all that. We went straight down Covent Garden. I had a joke about it yesterday when I seen him. We had like a few pints. We trained on Monday. Some lads are worse aware, but it was all good fun. But we on the Monday, on that Saturday night, we went out. So we had we were all in this place called Loaf. Was it called Loaf? Something like that, Sugarloaf or something. And that is one of the best places to be. Yeah. So you got Westlife in there, you got Emmerdale Farmcast in there, you got Coronation Street in there. You've got who was in there, Victoria Beckham's sister and all the body, and it was like people everywhere. And then Wrighty comes in. I mean, again, he's just in there, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, is he in Wrighty?" But he was like, "Cooke, you all right?" And I'm thinking, "Oh my God, I'm in a club." Right? He's just shouting my name, and it was like surreal that someone of that caliber and whatever, and it just sort of helped us get where we needed to be because he scored some crucial goals at crucial times. Yeah. I think it was a couple of games we were struggling. I think he left when Pates was back fit. It was back to me and Pates. Then he would sort of, take one of us off with about 10 minutes to go, and he'd go and snatch a winner from nothing. Do you know what I mean? He just had that ability to just score goals. And again, Pates that season was just. It's just one of the. I mean, sometimes just so envious as a centre forward because I played with so many great players. Pates was one of them, and especially that season, he just could turn it on when he could do nothing. And he'd be the first to say he'd do nothing for 90 minutes. Yeah. And all of a sudden, on a sixpence, he would stick one in the top corner. Or he'd get the ball, take on someone, bend it and just smash it in. He just had and that year, he must have scored 30 goals probably that year. And I probably got about 7 or 8 or something like that. But I played every game. But it was just working between us. It's like sometimes, I don't know, bust your balls to go and close someone down eventually ends to a goal or a cross or something, and he's just always there. He just had the ability to be there all the time. And that was Stan, going back to that, I think Stan just had that ability, that time of just understanding what it took to get a group of lads together and just let them go and play, really. And it just worked.
I don't think we can talk about Stan and not talk about what he was like off the pitch and his character. There's some mad stories. I'm not sure. Yeah. I think you only were there for 2 years with Stan. There's stories of him punching David May. There's stories of him chasing after Neil Warnock and stuff like that. What are the standout memories of Stan for you? There's
a few. So Glenn was involved. We talked about this. So Glenn, Wells always used to have massive bust-ups with him all the time. He was probably the only one that would give Stan some shit, or if he said anything, he'd be like, I've seen them have a massive stare off huge stare off. Yeah. But no one's moving. They're like staring at each other, like staring. And I remember Glenn having a tussle with him, and it was a time when we just couldn't get outside training, so we're training on the indoors. And Glenn hit him, and the gaffer had a bit of a tussle or whatever, and Glenn storms off. But as he stormed off at the bottom door, the doors sort of, he went crashing through them, and the doors went, because of the wind, crashed the doors, and he was like, get him, right? And the gaffer was like ready for him. Get him fucking back. And he's like, like people trying to hold him because he thought that Glenn would had smashed the doors, but it was the wind that smashed him. So he was like, get him fucking back. So I think Gordon Armstrong got him back or whatever, and Glenn was like, oh, what have I done now? What have I done? Because he didn't know the doors had gone. So yeah, it was flipping. And there was a time where I saw, I suppose we're careful with some of the stories, but I remember we got hammered down at Bournemouth. This is how crap the team was. I think this was in the early days when he was trying to he knew what he needed.
Yeah.
I think we were 4-0 down. Brassy had a throw in, gave it to the opposition, and we got done 5. And he was like, "Are you fucking colourblind?" And they changed it. "Are you fucking like to Brassy? What are you fucking doing?" And we got on the bus, and I'm not sure who was on. There was a few. There was we had lads like John O'Kane. Fordy was on there. There was a few of us. We were having a bit of a card game, but the gaffer said, I mean, we got properly beat, and we were like wounded. And I was thinking, that was the time the gaffer definitely realised, I'm ripping this team up. I'm just ripping it up because it's
I remember
shit.
there was at one point when he just stuck 3 or 4 lads on the transfer market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I've got some couple of great stories. So when we were on that bus, we were allowed a drink, so we were all playing cards and whatever. And the gaffer come up. He'd had a couple of red wines, but obviously he was fuming. Fordy was there, he had this bottle of beer, and he was like, fucking you, like today, what are you fucking you today, like pointing in his face, and he literally sort of got his bottle, and as he got it, it hit him on the head. He was like, I'm fucking telling you, you fucking show up like that again. And he went, and literally the bus just went, and then I knew from that point that there was people then that were not going to be part of that club. And he just had that character of no messing around. If you didn't put it in, he'd recognise that and he'd get rid of you. We were. I'll never forget. We were down pre-season. We went down to Exeter, and we were staying in this college. And gaffer goes, right, everyone can go out, but you are not back later than, so I can't remember, it might have been 10:30, something like this. So we all go out. Imagine the lads like Jeppo and everyone was like this, yeah. And we all sort of went our separate ways, so we're all in Exeter anyway. We come back. I remember coming back. So I actually shit myself because Brassy and Glenn went in and he went nuts. Basically, I knew they were there. So as we were walking up, you could sort of see that the gaffer and Sam Ellis were sort of there waiting for lads. I was thinking, we'd thinking, oh shit, I'm in shit here. Yeah. It's like being at school. I'm in shit. Because I think it was it was about 11:30. It was about midnight. And I remember hiding in the hedge thinking, I don't know what to say yet. The Brassy and Glenn went in. I just didn't want to go in, so I actually just hid there for a little bit. I was thinking, what am I going to say? Anyway, I go up to him. He goes, where the fuck have you been? I was like, I lost track of time. Get fucking in. I'll deal with you tomorrow. Anyway, there was a couple of lads. What he did, because I don't know what happened, but he said we had a meeting. He was fuming at the first or whatever. And we didn't see him all day, the gaffer. And I said to Jeppo, what's going on? Because everyone was shitting themselves. Like, what, we're in. He went, he's all right. He's calmed down now. He'll be all right. He'll be fine. So I was thinking, okay. So he seemed all right. So next time we seen him, he didn't say anything. So, but there was some lads that I think, and if Michael, there was 4 lads, they never played for the club again. And they said, I think Lee Howie was one of them. You will never play for this club again.
I think
ever.
Martin Stanley, one of them.
Yeah, one of them. Yeah. So he just broke it up very, very quickly and just knew what he wanted to do. But I just said I always seemed to get on with him. When I was looking for houses, he used to come pick me up. He used to take me around. So I always had a great relationship with him. Yeah.
Well, my next question was going to be, were you ever scared of him? But I guess obviously not. If you had a great relationship.
I did, but again, you wouldn't. I just had that respect. So again, it's not as I'd never go out. I think there was one time where I knocked on his door and I said, "I'm sorry, look, it just didn't happen today." He went, "Fair enough." He said, "You were shit today. You were shit." And I think as long as you recognise that and you know that, but he'd still started the next game.
Yeah.
we came in at half time once or something. We were like, I think it was a game I was having a shocker. Everyone was just having a shocker. It was against Peterborough, and Branchy was having a shocker. He goes, "You all right?" To me, I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, fucking come on then." Right? He goes, "Branchy, what is the fucking matter with you?" Sam, get him a fucking whiskey now. Right? So Sam had to go and get a go in the where the gaffer's office. Got a bottle of whiskey, gave him like that. "You fucking drink that now." He goes, "Gaffer, I'm not." He goes, "I'm just feeling a bit unwell, that's all." Fucking drink it anyway. He gave him a whiskey like that. He made him down it. Branchy had a storm the next half. He actually went out second half. Must have about probably quadruple whiskey in that glass. Yeah. Just mad. Like, just what he, it was just character. But again, the lads respected him. And I'm not saying everyone, because, not everyone gets on, but he sort of turfed them out very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And he offered me a chat again. I think, there was a time where I could have gone back to Crewe, actually. There was a deal. I think they were offering $750 or something. That was in the promotion season. I actually went down to speak to them, but realised straight away I just didn't want to be there. And I just said to Gaffer, "I don't want to go." And thankfully I didn't, because I think they were just looking to bring possibly. He said, "Look, you can if you want to speak to him, speak to him." He said, "I don't want you to go." He said that it's a bit of money. He said, "Well, we can get a bit of money in, possibly. I don't want you to go because we're on a good thing here." And I think I just recognised that, and thankfully I didn't go that season. I don't think anyone really knew about that. And then it was just a respect thing. So just I've always sort of, on his birthday or whatever, will say sort of happy birthday. I just always sort of had that relationship with him, and I knew at the time when it was time to eventually move from Burnley that it was just time. You know what I mean? You just know that they want to sort of change the direction. I knew they wanted to invest a bit of money. They were looking at other centre forwards. So I just think sometimes it's just time to move on. So, but that relationship was always there.
Yeah. Speaking of relationships, how was your relationship? Obviously, you've referenced strike partner Andy Payton.
Yeah.
Obviously, and that's probably the strike partnership that I properly remember as a kid, like just being class together and really working together. What were you like off the pitch together? Were you good
so
friends?
we didn't, never off the pitch, never.
No?
Never. Pates, when he'd be the first one, he'd always be sort of the last one in, first one to go. And his training particularly probably wasn't great. But again, on a match day, you just knew he would score goals. Yeah. He just has a knack of scoring goals. I mean, he scored yesterday, but it's still a big thing to him to always want to be there and score. So I think the relationship was on the pitch. I think I ever bumped into him once when I was out and we had a pint, but I've never had any social relationship with Pates at all.
Yeah.
And he used to come in and say sometimes, and he used to go, "Oh, I've just had someone ring me and going, what's up with you and Cooke? And like, apparently you had a massive fallout." He'd be like, "No."
Yeah, I always remember seeing like bits in the press and on certain forums that you didn't necessarily get on. But
no, never. I think it was just I think because we weren't off the pitch besties, together. Yeah. It just we were. I think you always think back in the day who was the sort of the two feared strike partnership that. Within a team. I mean, I always think, a lot of teams before they came to Burnley on a cold, wet Tuesday night were pretty much beaten, especially if they're coming from down south. But who wanted to play? I mean, against Pates and me, no one, because Pates would score goals and I would just be a fucking horrible pain in the arse for 90 minutes and just be horrible. And you think about it, it's probably Curtin at Bristol Rovers and Jason Roberts maybe. There was, he used to have them sort of certain partnerships in certain teams.
Yeah.
And we were definitely up there with that. I think I'm trying to think who City they have Dickoff and someone, but I just don't think it was just we were a massive threat in there. But we had lads behind us, or like I remember Smudger, Paul Smith. I mean, we were some of the balls he used to put in the box and said if I wasn't on the end of it, Pates was or whatever. We just had lads around us, or we used to work. I mean, it's a dying thing now, but channel balls, and no one does it anymore. No one really gets the ball wide and gets balls into the box.
Yeah,
I don't know why. And me and Pates just up front, on the pitch we had a great relationship. There was never a fallout ever, never. There was never any ill feeling. There was never fallouts. It was never broken. It just worked well on the pitch, and that was the relationship we always had. And I've always any centre forward I've played with, I've always had that relationship where I've just got on well with him. So many strikers that I've played with and fortunate to play with, I've always got on. I've always probably made a living not about being prolific, but just being that second striker or that first striker and someone feeding off me. It just worked back in the day. it just I said it worked for us. It worked for me. It definitely worked for Pates, and you know he scored a lot of goals through not only through me being on the pitch, but just that formation and just how we played.
Yeah, fair enough. You had a good relationship and still do have a good relationship with Paul Weller.
Yeah.
Was he probably your best friend in the squad?
Yeah, definitely. So I had a house in. I shouldn't really say, but I didn't live in Burnley, and I just wanted to get that way. There was different ways I could have gone, but I think when I first moved up here, I moved with a friend of mine where I sort of lived in at the time, Market Drayton. There was a guy there who had his mum lived in Great Harwood. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Great Harwood. So I went and stayed with her. I didn't go and stay in a hotel or anything. I just literally went and lived there for a couple of months. And while I was there was some new builds down the road that were just getting built.
Yeah.
So I moved there, and I just think living that way was sort of enough just to be far enough away. It's probably a bit close to Blackburn, but it was far enough away from Blackburn.
Don't have to make that up.
I know, yeah. But it was just far enough away. So I think I bought my first house. I remember moving in, and it was only a little 2 up, 2 down, and I had like, it's one of them places you could have all the knives and forks, your carpets, your curtains, your beds, your table and chairs, your sofa. All I had to do when I walked in was like literally a TV and a washing machine. I think it was like 36 grand I paid or something. That's just mad.
Yeah.
So that was sort of the. I've gone probably off piece there. I can't remember what you originally said.
Paul Weller.
Yeah. So Wells. So basically, Wells moved into that house with me.
All right, cool.
So he was like my lodger for a while. So we had. He was there for a while. He had like the little box room at the back and whatever. To be fair, he lived there for quite a while, and then he ended up buying a house just, I don't know, 50 yards up the road. So he lived there for a while. So I've always sort of, we had that relationship, but we not on the pitch as well. But when Wells was ill for quite a while, and he was, I've seen, hands on just some not very nice stuff, when he was really poorly. So, we always had that relationship, and he's probably there's not many that I still sort of keep in touch with. It's mad really, because you've got all these friends and everything, but for all these years, and you sort of lose track quite quickly.
Yeah.
And Paul, I've always sort of just kept in contact with really. I still buy cars off him and stuff like that.
Oh, he's got the car business.
He's got the car business, and I just it's just one of them sort of things. I think when you've known each other for so long and we've had that relationship for so long, he's the only sort of lad that I probably keep in touch with. I think Chris Iwalumo probably as well. I probably still keep in touch with.
Yeah.
So I was with him at Stoke. I know he was at Burnley and stuff. But there's a lot of lads where you're dead close with, but you sort of you go your separate ways or whatever. But
same in any walk of life, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Paul Weller's from down south, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he'd have been like you, young lad moving up to a new place.
He was one of the first guys ever. So when I came up here and I'd signed, we went down to the training ground. It's bizarre really, but they were doing a shooting practice on the well, say 3G. It wasn't even 3G. It was like an Astro then.
Yeah, and sandy carpets.
And I remember Wells. He was just like I always look. He was probably one of the first ones where he just looked like a little. He was a little cheeky one that just looked. They were doing some finishing, and he always seemed to just score a decent goal when they were doing it. And then from then, I don't know why, just from training or whatever, he used to get in his car and we'd go off for food and stuff like that. So it sort of just grew like that, really.
Yeah.
He's just. I come up. I mean, he asked me to play in this game this week. Normally, I would just say no, but. Or I've just said I just get injured all the time, so there's no point. But yeah, because he asked me this weekend, I just thought, do you know what, I'll come up. But it's great to see the lads again. A lot of the lads. So.
Fun fact about Paul Weller: he went into teaching for a bit after football. He did some college teaching. He was my tutor at college.
Was he?
Yeah, when I was 16, 17.
Because I know he was doing some stuff at Bury and whatever, and he was involved in academy and stuff like that. But the teaching stuff. Where was that? I can't think what even.
Myerscough College.
Right, okay.
But they used to, the thing behind the turf where the fan zone is now. I don't know how much you know how it is these days, but back then it was like an indoor pitch.
That's right.
And they turned it into half of it was a college.
Right.
So we used to train on that pitch.
That's where I sort of remember the indoor centre. That's where we used to train when the weather was bad. Or I can remember training in there Christmas Day. And
I had birthday parties in there growing up.
Training on the old classic training and staying in some place in Burnley on Christmas Day for the game on Boxing Day, and everything was like sort of, you wouldn't I think then it was called Ensley House or something. They had like a few rooms at the back of it, and we stayed in there. It wasn't like 5-star hotels and stuff. It would be like sort of a hostel we'd stay in.
Yeah, so there you have it. That was part 1. Part 2 will be out very, very soon. If you're listening to this, obviously before it's out, it'll be out in a few days. If it's already out, if you're watching this, obviously later on, just go and watch it now. You'll see the link come up in a second. If you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening on the podcast again, it will already be there. But yeah, that was part 1. Like I said at the start of the show, part 2 more goes into his life after Burnley, but it was a very interesting bit on why he left Burnley. Something I'm quite proud of actually. It's a good interview, and like I said, big thank you to Andy for coming on the show. He's really down to earth. He answered every question. There's no real edits in there because other than camera issues and microphone issues, but no, there's no edits in there because he's like, I don't really want to talk about it. He answered everything, and he's a really, really nice guy as well. We even went for lunch afterwards. So yeah, big shout out to Andy for coming on the podcast, coming on the show. And yeah, part 2 will be out soon.